welcome you to our daily Bible study. I am your host, Bible teacher, Dr. Derek A. Reeves, and we're going to continue on in our 17th series that is entitled Mind War. Today's topic, we're going to come from, again, Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3, and today's lesson will be entitled The Operation of the Mind. Let's dive right into our lesson. Isaiah 26 and 3 says, "Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee." If we were to read this in its original, although we're reading it in the English, it would read as this: "Thou wilt keep in perfect peace, mind stayed, because he trusteth in thee." And so we want to talk about the operations of the mind. How does the mind operate? First of all, we have to realize that the mind, again, is the living soul, the power of the soul and the existence of the soul as an individual person. Many people think that the soul is something other than the mind, but the soul that lives, it literally then, remember the term living soul, neshama kahi, or the soul that lives, the nefesh kahama, or when we talk about the living soul, the kahi nefesh, neshama is the exertion of the breath of God that he breathes into the very form that he formed. And so neshama kahi, the breath of life, is what now activates the soul within the contingencies of where the soul is now abiding and where the soul is fixed and designed to operate. And so the scripture tells us that when God created man, he became a living soul. And living, or kahi, means that something is animated. It is now animated within the dimensional realities in which it was designed to operate. And so that which is living is operable and animated within the dimensional aspects of its reality. And so he tells us then, "Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee." It's very important that we come to understand that, again, there are 24 terms for mind, or something that deals with mindful or mindfulness. And so when we talk about the mental aspect or the mind, it's very important because the mind is the individual that is engaged in the thought processes. And these thought processes brings a reality and the knowledge on how to navigate through reality based upon the impulses and the information that is received. There are two types of knowledge, or two types of operating within mental capacity, I should say. Number one, it is the operating through the physiological mechanics that are connected to the somatic structure or the physical body. The brain then was designed to be the operation center by which the mind or the soul would operate through. And this occurs because the brain then is connected to several nervous systems. The central nervous system, which starts with the spine and connects to the medulla oblongata, or what we would call the lower spine. And then you come with the spiritual operations. And so the physical body connected to the brain then is connected to the nervous systems. The nervous system, of course, the central nervous system, the spine, and the spine cord, or the bottom of the spine. Then there is the peripheral nervous system, those branches of nerve endings that now move away from the spinal cord and go throughout the body that bring sensations and the impulses so the physical body can be controlled. And then there is the vagus, or the vagus nerve, that goes to the stomach, that also utilizes some type of connections that give the body impulses on specific thoughts, specific things concerning learning how to stop, to take care, to ease stress. And so there are, several things then. There are at least 3 different modalities by which the body can be operable or receive, or receive information from the physiological systems. And it's very important, it's very important then that we understand that as the physical body is bringing in the impulses through the nervous systems, these impulses are translated into sensations that later on are translated into usable information by the mind. And so the mind enables us to receive these informational units and turn it into usable information. And then the mind is connected to what we would call the spirit, or the pneumatic sense. And the pneuma, or the spirit, unleashes higher level thoughts that come and are connected directly to God. And so the mind has the capacity to receive from the physiology. The mind has the capacity to receive from the spirituality. But here, when he speaks of keeping him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on him or God, he's speaking now of something that's very, very important, because the terminology that he uses in the text is the word Yetser. And Yetser is very interesting because the scripture says, as God forms man from the dust of the ground, he uses the same terminology, Yetser, the pushing and the pressing and the narrowing and the sculpting to create an image or a form. And so when we talk about Yetser as it relates to the mind, it talks about the forming or the framing, the purpose or the framework. And so it talks about structurizing something and forming something. To understand it now, we have to take it into some of the other definitions. And when we say Yetser, it deals with the framing of images. And so it is the framing of the imagination, taking images and producing something that can be seen, something that can develop a mindset or thoughts based upon the perspective of the sighting or what is being shown. And so the mind then, it is created to receive information, to utilize that information, to turn it into usable information that then becomes fixed in the brain as thought processes. And these thought processes are the modality in which the human unconsciousness begins to store the thoughts based upon the experiences of what has been experienced, seen, or considered. And so literally, the human mind, it operates in such a way as to develop a standard and to develop a navigational system that will cause specific behaviors and cause specific feelings, specific values, and specific insight. It gives the individual a purview or a perspective on reality in the natural and in the spiritual. And so it is the mind that gives us the potentiality to think, to develop thought processes, to develop values, to develop a modus operandi, how we will operate, the modes of thinking, the modes of feeling, the modes of choosing. And so the mind then, it gives us the navigation, and it gives us the pattern of how we will think, solve problems, how we will respond in our emotions, and how we will choose based upon our volitional powers or our will. I am out of time. I thank you for joining me. And until next time, this has been our daily Bible study. I am your host, teacher, Dr. Derek A. Reeves. God bless you. Until next time.